pretty stuff, the easily mortgageable stuff, will all sell on the MLS. That is not your market. That is not your target. You want problems. Because if you can find a problem, you can create the solution. And it is that creative ability that's what we get paid for. We get paid to think. Even more so than taking action, we get paid to think. A lot of people, and I swear to God, half of my students that I deal with on a regular basis fall into engineers, accountants, attorneys, and IT people. Anybody guess why? What do those four fields all have in common? Calm down, you lively bastards. Anybody have a thought?
Pretty analytical.
Very analytical. Unbelievably detail-oriented. They're also very risk-averse. So they will sit there and churn their frickin' wheels and find every magical way not to take action. I'll give you a prime example, one that I guarantee 30 other people saw before I saw it. I bought a house for $1 once. Imagine how horrific a house for $1 really is. And this one wasn't nearly as nice as whatever you're picturing. It was a bombed out place that did not have a front door. It didn't have any windows. It was in a neighborhood you didn't really want to park your car in. Yeah, there was nothing good I could say about this property, other than I sold it for $7,500. Fair enough. Would any of you not have bought this piece of shit and made a $7,499 profit? What's a semester here cost, guys?
Yeah, without housing.
Take the bite out of your semester. I probably had 2 hours into that project by the time it actually happened, and I could have sold it for 10, but I actually agreed to sell it for 75. But I was the only one who actually just looked at this horrible thing and saw beauty. That's part of what a wholesaler needs to be able to do. And I'll tell you at the onset is, through experience and repetition, it's very easy for me to see beauty now. Okay, I see it in lots of places where other people don't see it. But if you do this properly and you use an option contract rather than something that actually obligates you, you have no fear. What's the worst that could possibly happen? You don't close on your option. Big whoopee, you just lost your $10. That's really all you have to do to bind the contract. Although, I rarely give anybody the $10. I will fess up to that. I rarely actually spend the 10. So, really, I'm buying these things with nothing. Does anybody have nothing? You have a supply of nothing? Any fear that you'll run out of nothing at any point in the future? If you can buy things for nothing and then put them out to the market, where your only two possible options are either you do not close on the property or you close on it and you make money. Does this sound overly complicated to anybody? I swear to God, a monkey can do this. Back two of my favorite students, one guy was actually homeless when I started working with him. Another guy did 20 years in state penitentiary, and I'm fairly certain murdered somebody. It's one of those things you generally don't bother to ask. But I'm not joking when I tell you anybody can do this. And I cringe when I tell this story because growing up as a kid, my father and my uncle both told me the same story. And they didn't kick in for me until after I had become a fairly successful real estate investor. They told me the story of the dummy. I would love to have known the dummy's name. The dummy is some guy who went to school with my dad and apparently was barely high school material. The dummy was apparently fairly slow, and when they graduated high school, the dummy took the very coveted job of school janitor. Because God knows every kid wants to grow up to be the school janitor of the school they just graduated from. So the dummy didn't have a whole lot going for him. But that first year out of school, the dummy bought a house. And the second year, and the third year. And by the time they came back for their 20th reunion, the dummy had retired. My brilliant father and uncle worked until they died. The dummy, on the other hand, was quite successful. Anybody think they're not as smart as the dummy? Okay, so we've eliminated intelligence for possible, although none of you will fess up to it. You almost formed a question. Anything?
No, I was sweating this.
I almost thought I was just excited.
I'll participate later on. I wanted to hear a little bit first before I participate too early.
No problem. You don't want premature anticipation.
Yeah.
But realistically, guys, So, using the proper contract, and I do want to touch on this, in Pennsylvania, it is illegal to wholesale a property if you do it incorrectly. If you wholesale a property and you wish to get a wholesale fee, you are in big trouble. If you wholesale a property and you wish to assign a contract to get paid, you are in big trouble. However, there's absolutely nothing that anybody can say to you about releasing your rights to a contract. It is absolutely the same frickin' thing. I now have 15 different real estate attorneys that I deal with in one way or another. Not a damn one of them can articulate how that is any different other than the actual words that I use. It is exactly the same action. Call it one thing, you're in trouble. Call it another, you're absolutely fine. As stupid as that statement is, there's just way too many lawyers on the frickin' planet. And before I go into a tirade about exporting lawyers for the good of the country, I will just tail off on that one for a second. Yes?
How do you get your lease contract to actually be different than an assignment contract?
It isn't.
Right.
That's how stupid and similar these are. You can literally have your contract say and or assigns in it. Just show release fee or even consulting fee on the HUD-1. You get paid that fee and you have not done anything to violate the law. Unless, of course, you happen to be an agent, in which case it doesn't matter. Yes, sir?
What's a HUD-1?
HUD-1 is the piece of paper they give you at closing that breaks down where all the fees are going. Generally, there's a mortgage payoff. The guy who sold it is getting something. The buyer sometimes gets something back. I bought a house yesterday and got $3,500 back in closing. I'm not even sure why. They just gave me a $3,500 check. I was happy, didn't bitch about it, took my check and walked. So let me get into, well, before I go into my tirades, and God knows I will, what questions do you guys have about the concept or the mechanics of wholesaling? Yes, sir.
Where do we find people to connect with to make any of these deals happen? Because I know no one.
Awesome!
So where would be the first
That means
place
nobody's mad at you.
So where would be the first place to go?
Okay, you have two different conversations there. The first one is you need to find somebody who wants to sell a house. The second one is you need to find somebody who wants to buy a house, okay? The sell a house part, the only place you don't want to go is the MLS. The multi-list system is a bargain disaster. It is a pure market. Anybody with an internet connection can figure out that house, whether it's priced correctly or not. If the agent has done anything resembling their job, it would be priced at market price. I hate market price. Market price sucks. What you want is the people who are bad at selling a house or can't sell a house because there's something physically wrong with the house. My personal favorite, and I called one on my way here, is the moron who sticks a sign in their front yard that says, house for sale. Nobody will ever see that sign, except my wife, thank God in this instance.
Right, exactly.
It is not on Zillow, it is not on Trulia, it does not exist anywhere except on this little cul-de-sac street that 6 other people who already live on that street happen to drive by.
Yeah,
and my wife who got lost. The for sale by owner is the entire category you want, or you would like to start targeting, and Aaron can actually help you, expired listings.
To some extent, because I'm an agent.
Because they did not sell on the multi-list.
And I target them to resell them, so that's why I say to a certain extent.
Yeah, just pick some territory he's not already claiming.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're looking for people who are advertising in the dumbest places they can find. Newspapers, the penny saver, the grain sheet. Newspapers will all be people over 50 who don't know that the internet exists. Craigslist will all be people under 30 who don't know that newspapers exist. Neither of them are wrong. You just need to find somebody who sucks at selling their house. Okay, now it could be that nobody else knows the house is for sale, in the case of the one my wife found. Or it could be that there's something wrong with the house that will keep the normal market from being able to buy it. Right. As we speak, right around 81% of the U.S. population cannot get a mortgage. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing. That means there are so few buyers for the houses that are out there that the market really favors us. Of those houses that are out there, the guys who can really buy them the traditional way can be very, very picky. So if there's anything wrong with that house will not sell. You find a house that needs any sort of updating. You know, the kitchen's from the 1970s, that's not going to sell. You find a house that has any sort of damage, the roof leaks, the furnace is bad, anything along those lines, that's your territory. We have a completely different niche than the entire rest of the traditional market. And that niche is what we exploit.
Is all you do is wholesaling, or you said you do everything?
Yeah, I am a true generalist. In fact,
what percentage then would you say like wholesaling makes up of like everything that you do?
For me, it changes all the time. I used wholesaling originally to get myself launched, and I took the little $5,000 and $10,000 chunks that I was making to buy the houses that I was keeping. Because the true path to wealth is to have rentals. It really is. That passive income that comes in month after month after month without you having to do anything is a wonderful thing.
Right.
You get to the point where you're making $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month. That job thing seems wildly irrelevant. You wonder why. Well, actually, you can still go to college. It's still fun. But that really should be everybody's goal. Use wholesaling to get there. Yes, sir.
So as far as time leverage goes, would you say wholesaling is the best way to start, or how does it rank in the pecking order?
It's really idiot-proof. Yeah, it is. It really is where everybody should start. The hardest thing to do is probably flipping, but you can wholesale anything. I've got a contract right now on, hell is it, 7 acres on Putin Bay, Ohio. It's a commercial property on some stinking island I've never been to. My wholesale contract goes on for 3 more years. I can buy it at $1.8 million. I have it for sale at $4 million. All I need is one jackass to buy this thing. But it is simply a wholesale. My A price and my B price, and B is much larger.
Where do you find like buyers?
Buyers.
Yeah.
There's the cool thing called the internet.
Right. You put it out there.
You can post it to everything from Zillow to Trulia to social media to Craigslist. You can even go to the newspapers. But once you have anything that resembles a deal, let's say you have an ugly house in Lawrenceville, a butt ugly house, one that may fall over on its own. Put it out there and see what the market says. The really cool part about the internet is the market expands massively. You'll find something that no Pittsburgher would ever buy, and some genius from California will slap it on. Where are you originally from?
Philadelphia.
Okay. What's the crappiest neighborhood in Philly?
Kensington, but they just keep like buying into it further. It just keeps getting pushed back. So it kind of just like going for the area.
Okay. Is the campus around Penn still an absolute shithole?
It's not as bad, but West Philly does get bad once you move further out into the neighborhoods.
Okay, so we're out in a horrible part of West Philly, and you've got a house that you can pick up for say $50,000.
Right.
Okay. As a rental unit, the cash flow on that property will be very appealing to somebody from the West Coast, because you can still do a 10% rate of return on that house pretty easily with our numbers, whereas somebody from San Francisco can't get a 1% return on their properties.
Right.
So the Microsoft geniuses who work out there will suck up that property's investment when no local person would touch it.
Right.
One of the real keys to wholesaling is to never prejudge your buyer. All you have to do is have something that looks like inventory, and somebody else will want it. The best example I can possibly give you of this, to realize that what you think might be hideous, somebody else thinks is beautiful, is go to the mall. Find the ugliest woman you can locate, and then look for her wedding ring. I'll guarantee, if you go to the Market District of Robinson at the night shift, there's this wonderful woman that has not a whole lot of hair on top and a better beard than you're sporting right now, and she's wearing a wedding ring. And she outweighs me by a good 80 pounds. But somebody else thinks she's beautiful. The buyers and wholesaling are the same thing. Now you can get into more advanced wholesaling. You can sell properties, if you buy them correctly, for more than their market value. Market value doesn't even apply. I'll give you the one that I talked to today. Guy wants $300,000 for his house. Okay, fair enough. It's probably a $300,000 house. It's free and clear. So my offer to him is going to be very simple. I'm going to offer him $300,000. Anybody have any idea how I'm going to make money buying a house at market price?
Are you gonna do like a salmon lease option type of thing?
Yes, I am. I see you've been reading. What I'm going to do is I'm going to purchase this house, say $1,000 a month for 300 months, whatever the number that can break down, probably more like 1,500. Then I'm going to go out and I'm going to find somebody else who would like to buy that house but can't get a mortgage. I'm going to have that person give me, say, $20,000 or $30,000 down as a non-refundable option consideration, and say maybe $1,800 a month to be able to buy it. I'll make a quick $20,000 or $30,000 up front. I'll make a couple $100 a month while they buy this house over the next whatever the term turns out to be, and I will not have owned that house at all. Fair enough. How much money do I have in this deal?
Nothing.
Think hard. It's less than a big meal at McDonald's. But I completely control it. Now, in a sandwich lease option, which is an advanced version of wholesaling, if that person fails in their obligation, and 2 out of 3 will, I get to resell it. You know, let's say he pays $100,000 down on that mortgage, and then job transfer, whatever. I can still resell that house at $300,000. The fact that I already made $100,000, if it's $100,000 already been paid down, that's now my money. I get the benefit of that debt pay down. Does that seem fair? Yes, sir.
It almost seems like too easy for it to work. You know what I mean? Like before you started wholesaling, did you like think it was possible? And then once you started doing it, obviously you saw the results. But
the first one I ever did, I was actually kind of proud of. That deal sucked. It truly sucked. It was a townhouse. It was literally $20,000 more than it was worth. I was into it. I had under contract at $130,000. It was literally what the guy owed on the property. He had somehow over-mortgaged the property in Pittsburgh, which is nearly impossible. The house smelled horribly of smoke, and the walls all had that yellow that you get from people who smoke for years in there. I mean, you could sit outside and smell the smoke on this. It also had a nice pet smell to it. So there wasn't a whole lot I could say that was good about this place. It was dated. The kitchens and the bathrooms needed to be updated. His payment was high. He had taken out a HELOC or something to where he was just shelling out money. But his problem was pretty simple. He lived in Tennessee. The house was in Pittsburgh. So he was paying 2 mortgages. All he wanted was to get rid of this frickin' one. So my offer to him was simple. Look, I'll take over your debt. Do we have a deal? I'll close on this deal within 6 months once I find a buyer. Fair enough? Then I found a guy who had the worst credit I could locate. This kid was a complete loser. He was a limo driver of some sort. But he had $7,000 to put down and was willing to take over those payments. He's been paying on that house for the last 4 years. That was an ugly freaking deal. But in marketing that one, I found a whole bunch of people who were interested in looking at it. A lot of them were turned off by it once they actually saw it. But there were a whole bunch of people that were very interested in that opportunity. Because I created a gateway for people who couldn't buy a house to actually buy a house. And you'll be amazed at how not picky people get when you're their only avenue to buying a house. Did I remotely answer that question, or did I just go on a tangent?
No, a little bit of both, but that's your style. So, follow-up question.
Yes,
That was a good overview of wholesaling and the whole start to finish. So for starting, expired listings are one way you can go. Say if there are 100 other people trying to wholesale and they're all going after the expired listings. What if are there other alternative means that you can do to find buyer or find the sellers besides expired?
That will never come up. But despite the fact that I've got 1,100 people in the club, I almost never trip across any of the deals.
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh's a city of 1.2 million. 1,100 people is a tiny, tiny drop in the bucket. But let's say that somehow magically you're having trouble with that. You can also go after, inherited property is another category you can attack.
How do you find those?
melissadata.com, ListSource, Listability. There are a number of list companies that will sell you all that data.
Okay.
Isn't there, for Pittsburgh, isn't that their own
Allegheny County, you
website?
can buy the disc.
$50.
$50 you can buy all the Allegheny County tax disc. It's a big pain in the ass to get anything out of it unless you have an IT degree. You've got to have a wife who has an IT degree. Yeah, that you can go after pre-foreclosure the same way, locating the list. Out-of-town owners is really my favorite. Or non-owner occupied will give you anything from people who inherited a property. And before I go on that, let me explain what a pain in the ass that is for people. You live in California, your mom just died in Pittsburgh. You have a job and an entire life in California. Dealing with the house over here is a big problem for you. Divorce, job transfers, people who, for whatever god awful reason, their life's gone so bad that they had to move back in with their parents. It's almost a chaos list. In that chaos list, you'll also find people who try to sell their house and are now renting it because they failed to sell it through the regular market. You'll find burned out landlords. Landlords burn out because they aren't very good at being landlords and because tenants are horrible, horrible people. Tenants will get you into the realm of adult daycare. If you want to go a little more creative, I guess, talk to the police. The police in your area will know where all the problem people live. If the problem people are renting, you can guarantee you have a landlord who hates their life. I bought one because one of my buddies is a city cop and his place is right next to mine. He called me and told me there was a domestic dispute where the tenant and the landlord were fighting in the front lawn.
It's like Step Brothers.
It didn't take me a whole lot of time to realize this might be an opportunity for me. So I called the fellow up and said, "Hey, you want to sell?" He said, "Yes." You can track the crime reports and direct mail to those people. If you see that the DEA has just raided a house, guaranteed whoever that landlord is not really happy. If any drug task force hits a house, murder, suicide, those are all possible times when somebody might want to unload a house. Even random death can be an opportunity. If they just carted an 80-year-old woman out of there in a casket, somebody really doesn't want that house. Abandoned property is a wonderful category. Most of the contacts, the first contacts, I will do a direct mail letter. It is so painfully stupid, your marketing department will have a meltdown. The standard yellow letter that you'll hear battered about a lot if you hit places like Bigger Pockets. The yellow letter is very simple. It was an accident created by Donna McNeil, who at the time was Ron LeGrand's personal assistant. Donna was in a big hurry trying to get some marketing together and pulled out a yellow piece of notebook paper and wrote the words literally, "Hi, my name is Donna. I would like to buy," larger font, dollar signs on both sides, "your house at, please call." That stupid frickin' letter outperforms every other piece of marketing in existence, period, bar none. You will have people call you up to tell you how bad that is as they're selling you their house. The hard part is not to giggle at that point. Standard direct mail marketing is expected to hit between 1 and 2% response. The yellow letter will hit between 30 and 45%. It is not even close. Yes?
Now, yellow letters, they have the handwritten font. Do you find that works just fine, or do you think writing your own would be better?
Writing your own is better.
Yeah.
If your handwriting sucks, that's actually a bonus. I don't know why. My belief on the psychology is that the yellow letter, to truly be a yellow letter, has to be done in red ink on yellow paper in a size 10 invitation envelope with their address handwritten on the front and yours on the back. People will open it because it looks like personal correspondence. So it gets through all of the normal filters. It doesn't get thrown out with any of the other crap that you get in the mail. Then they open it up and they see this dumb freaking letter. My belief, and I'm not sure that I'm right, is people are so disarmed by it, they think you're too stupid to take advantage of it. Let them. People like to think they're smarter than you. Just go with it. I can't really explain why the yellow letter is so successful. The only time it is not successful is when some idiot guru comes by and tells people to send out 10,000 of them a month. They'll fuck that up for about that month. It'll be a problem. Once that wave goes past, they start working again. The worse the neighborhood, the higher the response you get on the yellow letter. If you start hitting Upper St. Clair, Mount Lebanon type places, you'll still get the 20 to 30%. If you send it to Braddock, Homewood, Wilkinsburg, you will get close to 50% response. I almost bought the town of Ambridge accidentally. I screwed up on my mailer list and was trying to get Sewickley, and somehow I got the digit wrong. The joys of dyslexia occasionally plague me. Yes, sir.
So you're driving around town and like you see a house, or you talk to somebody, you see a house that you might want to market to. Well, how do you find the person? Like say the address of that person if it's not that.
The Allegheny County website will give you their belief of who the owner is and the address. If that fails, walk up, knock on the door. The nebbiest neighbor who comes out and asks, "Who are you?" That person will actually know where the real owner is. There'll usually be some crabby old woman that wants to hit you with a broom. But if you're nice to her, she'll tell you exactly who to mail to. Those people don't want to live next to a vacant house. And I really do want to emphasize this, I guess. Vacant houses are fantastic for you guys because A, they're all over the place. The city of Pittsburgh has between 24 and 26,000 abandoned houses. That's the city. That's not counting the county. There's a fellow named Reggie Brooks who grew up in Watts during the 1960s, very poor. If you get into any of the civil rights studies, you'll find that Watts was an absolute war zone in the 60s. Reggie Brooks is his name. Reggie drives a Rolls Royce now because he started buying abandoned properties. And very simply, buy them stupid cheap and sell them at some number that his buyers thought was stupid cheap. Not the most complicated idea in the world. It really isn't. Yes, sir.
So my biggest thing is with the contracts. It seems like a big deal, you know, when you see a legal piece of paper or document. How do you make sure you're doing it the right way to where you're not screwing something up where you're, you know, going to owe money, or how do you do it the right way, I guess? What's a good template to follow? Okay.
Lawyers are a tool every bit like a pencil or a hammer. They're almost mindless creatures. You literally have to direct them what to do. But they will look over things to make sure that you don't step in any boobies.
So that would cost some sort of like compensation, right?
A legal closing table?
Okay, so you just give them a chunk of it?
No, they charge you for their services at the closing table.
Okay.
Shows up on the HUD one.
Okay.
It actually will. If you do it correctly, it'll be split between your buyer and your seller.
If you can do it right, yeah.
But the lawyer will do. You controlling the lawyer is very important. It has to be a real estate attorney. In the same way that you would not go to a foot doctor if you were having chest pain. You do not go to a non-real estate attorney if you're trying to do a real estate transaction. You will be staggered by the absolute lack of knowledge these people have. Before I go on too much of a freaking tirade there. Law schools do not teach lawyers, really don't teach them anything. They teach them how to research. And in learning how to research in their particular field, after about 20 years, they kind of get good at it. But it really does take them that long. You want a real estate attorney who's at least 40 years old. A Pennsylvania real estate attorney specifically. The one I use, I think about her credentials. She is an MBA from Pitt. She went to Duquesne's law school, as did her husband. They own a settlement company, and they're investors. They pretty much have the entire package all together, so there's almost nothing they can't do. And they understand every weird deal that I ever throw at them. But like I just had a student screw up a deal horribly with them. They corrected it right at the table. They just redid the contract right there and had everybody sign.
How did it screw up? Sorry.
They actually didn't articulate all the things that the seller wanted.
Okay.
Literally left out that he was supposed to get 30% of the combined deal. And they just put it right in at the closing table. If it's your attorney, you can fix anything. If it's not your attorney, you're screwed. Yes?
So how does your option contract different than a traditional, I'll pay X price in this many days with, you know, this number of inspection period or whatever?
That traditional one, you're actually obligated to pay that damn price.
Right. But I mean, how's it written? How is that written differently?
There's two. Well, I use two. The one that actually says option contract on the top of it, I rarely use, unless I've got somebody sophisticated enough to understand this isn't a problem. The one I really use appears to be a purchase and sale contract. It has one little clause in it. that little line created by John Iannone, who's another brain you guys should look up, has under section 9 it says per funder's approval. That makes it an option contract without anybody ever understanding it's an option contract. I've yet to have a lawyer catch that. I've been using it for I think 3 years now. My funder is whoever the hell's going to fund this deal. My funder is my buyer. So if I do not find a buyer for this deal, I have no obligation to close on it at all. So I have no risk in this process whatsoever.
Have you ever had anybody that you know they wanted you to sell it or buy it, but you didn't buy it for a year and they tried to like go after you?
Nope.
Never had that.
Nope. Any halfway intelligent person, even a lawyer, would look at it and say, "You're an idiot."
Right.
Literally, it just says I didn't have to close on it. I did. Congratulations, go away.
Right.
That's not saying some moron might attempt to sue you at some point, but that'll go about as far as this whole conversation. Any lawyer will tell them to piss off. They won't waste their time.
Does anybody have any questions about like the contract per se? Because I know there might be some people who haven't actually like ever looked at a contract or anything.
Do you ever do a double close, or is it always a signing contracts?
There's a situation where it would double close. A double close, guys, is where you're buying a property, I close on it, then they turn around and sell it, and we have a second closing, which will trigger transfer tax twice. Pittsburgh has the second highest transfer tax in the country, and we're looking to go to number 1. Yay for us. It's currently 4%, which kind of blows if you're only making $5,000 on the deal. So unless there is a big spread to where I'm literally embarrassed to have my buyer see how much I'm making on that HUD one, I will not do that. I will double close if there's if I'm gonna make $50,000, $60,000 on a $70,000 sale, yeah, then I'd double close. You go to transactional funding, Cameron Dunlap, go to his website, just CameronConnect.com, I think. Just Google Cameron Dunlap. Has transactional funding for up to $2 million, I think, at 1.5%, 1.5 points. So if the deal makes that much sense to you, you've got the money.
Yeah. And are there title companies who'll do like the buyer's fund blankets the entire contract, or do you have to do that funding?
You can do it either way.
Yeah.
We have a wonderful resource locally. My friend Dia will do all the title stuff for $30.
It's really cheap. It's ridiculous cheap.
Her brother was my old roommate.
Gotcha.
So she's kind of our little special little tool. But yeah, I generally try to avoid double closing as much as humanly possible, unless there's a staggering amount of profit and you are truly concerned that the guy buying will walk on the deal if he sees how much you make. Okay, guys, let's walk through this as non-academic exercise. How are you guys going to find a house?
Direct mail.
Okay. You've got your direct mail piece out there. I called you back. What do you want to ask me?
I have like a list of questions I can't think off the top of my head.
Okay. Hey, it's tough
Yeah.
when you're starting off to be put on the spot like that. But the point I really want to drive home is, anytime I'm talking to somebody who's selling a house, I'll ask them all the questions. How many bedrooms, how many baths, does it need any repairs? What's your asking price? How did you come up with that price? Blah, blah, blah. I don't really care about any of those answers. I really don't. Everything they will tell me is describing their box. Their box looks like every other frickin' box on the street, and it is priced accordingly to where it is and how big it is, and its general condition, plus or minus a little bit. But what I really, really want to know is their problem. We get paid to solve problems. So the question I need to ask is, this house sounds great, because they will always describe it to you as a great and wonderful house. If this frickin' thing's leaning 30% to the left, and seriously may fall over during the next rainstorm, people will still describe that house to you in good and glowing terms. So the question becomes, well, let me ask you, why are you selling? The answer to that question is their problem. Nobody ever dumps a house because it's fantastic for them. They dump a house because they can't afford it. They dump a house because they're obligated to move somewhere else. They dump a house because they've already moved somewhere else. They dump a house because they have too many kids to fit in the damn house. They dump a house because that school district is horrible and they'd like their kids to learn to read someday. Whatever their reason is, that's what you want to focus on. Because if I understand what their problem is, I can solve their problem. And in solving their problem, I'm going to make money.
Yes. So when you're checking out a house and you're looking, like, how do you have to determine what the value is going to be of the house? Like, do you just look at comps around the neighborhood?
I seriously don't even care.
You just throw a number out there.
I don't. I asked him 2 questions. Let me ask you a question, sir. If I were to buy this house and close quickly on it, what's the least you'll sell it to me for?
300,000.
No, really, the least.
100.
Be gentle. I might have a heart condition. What's the least? I'll ask that question 3 times
Mhm.
and just let them keep walking themselves down. The nuances of the psychology of it are that they kind of understand that you're not impressed with their first offer. So they feel they need to chase you. Then you're not impressed with their second offer. They feel they need to chase you a little further. It's very similar to dating. You cannot walk up to a girl and you start saying, "Wow, you're the most beautiful girl I've ever seen in my life. Please, please, please come out with me." No, you're going down in flames. That will never work ever.
Elizabeth, can you vouch for that? Or would that work for you? Would that work for you? Okay.
But if she feels she has to chase you, you're in a much better situation. That's really the way the psychology of that part works. I will a lot of times turn that to a terms deal. And I'll say, look, if we have to do this as a cash deal, the most I'm doing this is maybe $230. Okay? But if I were to be able to do $300,000, and I can, we have to do this sort of unconventionally. Now, is that something that might interest you? Yeah. Good. Now, if I were to give you the whole $300,000, let's say maybe $1,000 a month for the next, I don't know, 100 months, then pay you the remainder at some point in the future. What that would do for you is it would give you a much lower tax burden, and it would create an income stream for you for the next decade. Now, you've got 2 choices here. Your house has some problem. So you're either going to have to listen to every idiot come by here and lowball you, or you can talk to me, and I'll get you full price. You interested?
Yeah.
Good. Send my agreement over. The neurolinguistics of that is important too. You never send anybody a contract. Contract is a scary word. Agreement is exactly the same bargain thing, articulated slightly different. I would like you to approve my agreement, not sign my contract. Sign my contract is a frightening word that somehow creates a vision of you being enslaved to me for the rest of your life. Approve my agreement is a much friendlier set of terms. Yes, sir.
I'd assume it's much lower now than when you first got started, but what would you say is like a typical rate of the agreements that fall through because you can't find a buyer?
About none.
How long does it take you to find a buyer on average then?
You'll know. It's a hard question to answer.
Or what's the range?
When you suck at this, it will take you a lot longer because you will have constructed the deal in not the best terms in the front end. When you get better at it, your deals are a lot better. Students take them 3 months to find one. And there's a lot of mitigating factors there. If you've got a property that's, let's say it's a rental, that's occupied by hostile tenants, that's going to take a while. If you've got a property that is truly overpriced, it's going to take a while. If you've got a property that's underpriced and gorgeous, you won't own it next week. There's a lot of variables in that question.
Now to follow that up, how do you show your potential buyers the property? Just pictures? Do you walk them through?
Well, I want keys. I want access to this property.
Yeah.
And that funders conversation we had earlier, look, I need to show my funders this house. How do I get access to it?
Yeah.
When can you get me a key?
So all your potential buyers will get walked through every time?
No. I want to pre-screen them so I'm not wasting my freaking time.
Yeah.
And generally what I'll do is I'll stack them. I'll do like a Saturday. I'll have them show up every 15 minutes. So that as one's coming in, they get to see somebody else leaving, As they're leaving, they get to see somebody else coming in. So it created their own psychological pressure that they better act quickly or they lose this deal.
Does anyone ever hesitate with giving you the key?
Some people do. I yell at them. Very seriously, look,
Yeah.
I would like to help you. Why in God's green earth are you fighting me off?
Yeah. Hey, some people have stupid reasons.
Yeah, my job is to slap them back into reality.
Yeah.
A lot of, again, the psychology, it's very gestalt psychology. I need to smack people around occasionally.
Not
By waking
literally.
them up. Yes.
Don't want to give the wrong education
Not
here.
by smacking them personally, but you need to snap them into reality. You know, look, I'm trying to help you. Why in God's green earth are you fighting me off?
Yeah.
Because let me tell you about this. Right now, there's two of us in this conversation that are interested in your problem. One of us is losing interest very rapidly. Would you like me to go away? I'll pull it right out from under. I don't need you.
Need nothing in the deal.
If you want me to solve your problem, you better do things the way I tell you to do.
Yeah.
And you will not be that cocky of an asshole early.
Yeah.
You develop that over time. But it will come to you.
Yeah. What about like the investors you said buy from like California and something like? Obviously, they're not going to get walked through it.
No.
You just send them pictures of it.
Pictures.
Yeah.
You should send them a video, post it to YouTube, whatever. If you want to fly your happy butt in to look at a $50,000 house. I actually had some Canadian guy wants to meet me next week. I don't even know what the hell he wants. Apparently, he wants to buy something in Pittsburgh and wants to take me to lunch. Okay.
Sure.
But yeah, the out-of-towners, let me connect this. Don't ever be the out-of-town investor. I am very friendly to out-of-town investors, but they usually get screwed by other people. I usually get the phone call afterwards. I had one call me 8 months ago. She bought a fourplex in Duquesne, which is its own special war zone. That stupid thing needs $100,000 in rehab to be worth the 40 that she thinks it's worth. And she wanted me to buy it. I can't help you with that thing. No. Good luck. The out-of-town investors are the ones who usually get taken advantage of by the less scrupulous locals. Just please don't ever be the out-of-town investor. You really do need to know where you're at and what you're doing. At least understand your neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh's a great example because you move. Now let's look at Oakland. You move a couple blocks and you're in the Hill District. You have a completely different market. And I had this conversation with Joe Caldwell recently. These guys are calling us. I had a guy try to tell me he had a duplex in Southside he was trying to buy. One my advice. Well, his duplex in Southside was in Beltsuber.
Which is not a nice area.
No,
you don't want
please
to. You don't want to walk there though.
Yeah. Southside, and the trigger was he told me $40,000. It was a nice property. There's no way in frick you found this thing. If you did, I'll pay you $50 for it right now. And as soon as he gave me the address, I quickly mapped it. Good God, no, it's in Beltsuber. Jesus, no. That's bad strategy. Yes, sir.
So, say if one of us had like our first wholesaling deal, would you be able to like help us somewhat with it?
Yeah, very simple.
All right.
You guys got pens? Write my email address down. Pittsburgh. Spell the whole city out. REIA at AOL.com. If you find a deal or something you think is a deal, let me know. I'll walk you through it. I'm enough of an idiot. This actually is what I do to entertain myself.
And then we could go through it like as a group too, like present it and like kind of walk through it.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a cool educational thing.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
See where you float that up.
Yeah.
One thing I really want to impress upon you is screw up. You're going to, but embrace it. The only way to get good at something is to suck at it enough times in a row. And I really equate what I do to learning to hit a baseball. When you first learn to try to hit a baseball, you will swing like a spastic moron hundreds of times before you ever come close to actually making contact with that ball. And a lot of what professional investors do is that. We've just gone through enough repetitions of looking like an idiot to get good at it. That's why wholesaling is a very good way in, and wholesaling with an option contract is a very safe way in. Because it doesn't matter how stupid you are and how dumb you should construct these deals, you really can't lose. So it makes the repetition safe. If you start doing this with your own money and actually closing on the deals, you can be out of business in a week and wildly in debt by the end of the month. So yeah, just literally focus on wholesaling. Focus on finding the leads. That's really the only thing you need to do. Find the leads, ask them the important questions. Most importantly, that one of why you want to sell. And then I can help you structure the deals from there. It's not hard.
Would you have to ask them questions such as, would you be, how would you pose the question about talking about the contract? Are you okay if I find a funder, or I'm interested in buying your property, just give me 6 months to come up with the cash, or how do you usually?
Those horribly weak statements. Very simple. I'll buy this. Give me 6 months to find my funders, and I'll have it done. Now, I'm going to brief you ahead of time. Sometimes my funders will offer me a better deal than I'm offering you. If that happens, do you care if it's me that closes? Am I so incredibly charming that I'm the only person in the country you'll sell this house to? Nobody's ever said yes to that. Just once I'd like somebody to say yes. But yeah, that is not a hard transition.
Okay.
At all.
And then you just say, here's the paperwork, the agreement.
Yeah.
Can you sign it?
I'll have my agreement over to you before I even get that far.
Sure. Okay.
Look, Aaron, I'd like to buy the house. I'll send over my agreement. My attorney will have it scripted up for the next day. It'll be in your email box tomorrow morning. Get it notarized, get it back to me, and I'm on my way.
Okay.
I don't ask any questions, I make statements.
Yeah.
Asking a question in that situation opens you up to them saying something stupid and derailing the deal. The less you give them to think about it, the less of a problem they tend to be. And part of that is projecting confidence because you know what you're doing, which is why you'll need some batting practice before you get good at it. Yes?
Is there any option contracts out there that we can use for this?
Yes, and they're horrible.
Okay.
So what should we use?
Send me an email, I'll send you the one I use.
All right. We appreciate that. Thank you.
It's battle tested and created and paid for. Actually, a version of it cycles all over the country that was actually created in Cranberry.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's huge.
Yeah, that's $30,000 worth of VA.
Yeah, that's huge.
But it wipes out most of the problems you can have. So who thinks they can't do this? You're not even making eye contact. You do not have the confidence yet. What's holding you back? What scares you?
I don't know, a lot of things. Just like,
Is it the complicated math between A and B?
nah, it's just like, probably just going out and finding it. I know it's everywhere, it's on the internet, but like having the balls to do it.
That is the big problem that stops a lot of people, really is. I was blessed because of my background. I came from counterterrorism. My last awful job was shooting people in the head. And you had to make a very quick decision because they yell Allah Akbar and say they have a bomb. You have to shoot them before they do this.
Right.
So it helps with fast decision making. Normal people don't have that as a background.
Yeah.
And I accept that. But do you think you could buckle down and just decide that you're going to contact 5 people and see a replace?
I feel like I could, but not like right now. I feel like I'm too young. I don't know why.
I'm going to embarrass the hell out of you with this next statement. There's a 14-year-old girl in Florida who has bought, I believe, 20 houses now. Her goal is to get to 40 before she graduates high school. Are you younger than her? Yeah, she's kind of a phenom. But yeah, really, if I understood this when I was a minor, there is no way in hell I'd have graduated high school. There's zero chance I'd have ever gone to college, except maybe being inspired by a Rodney Dangerfield movie.
See, do most of the people like that or like your colleagues, obviously they're probably successful, like but like I'm sure a fair amount tend to screw up somewhere along the line.
Oh yeah,
Like,
and they'll tell you about it.
yeah.
Everybody screws up.
But they bounce back.
Yeah, you will screw up. Accept that you will screw up.
Right.
Just accept that because of the way we're going to do this, using an option and wholesaling, there's no penalty for screwing up. So it doesn't hurt you at all to do it. Just accept that you're going to suck at this. You're supposed to. It is very natural to suck at this. You ever play any sports?
Yeah.
What'd you play? Football. Okay. What position?
Wide receiver.
When you first got to, God, we'll go back to grade school.
Yeah.
How good were you at actually catching the damn ball?
Probably pretty good.
I don't know. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah, I got better.
You had to have the courage to go out into the pattern and actually attempt.
Yeah.
That's all I need you to do is get into the pattern and make the attempt.
Right.
You'll drop a whole bunch of easy catches.
Yeah.
You will. You will not be Larry Fitzgerald
Right.
until you've done it a whole bunch of times. All I ask is that you go out and try. Because much like the dummy, it does not take a whole lot of IQ to make this happen.
Yeah.
There really is nothing special about people who are very good at this.
Mhm.
Trump's an extreme example because he's very good at the negotiating part.
Right.
That's why he has $9 billion freaking dollars. But there isn't anybody in this room that couldn't make 6 digits this year. You push it, you make 7. It's not hard, it really isn't. I'll break the math down for you. The least you really want to make on wholesale is 5,000. How many 5,000s go into 100,000?
20.
20. How many a month do you need to do to get to 20? Assuming a 12-month Judeo-Christian calendar.
I have 1 point whatever, 2.
It's less than 2.
Okay.
You think you could talk to 2 people a month?
Yeah.
It's kind of stupid when you break it down to the real numbers. Let's say that your real kill percentage is 1 in 20. It's a fair number starting off.
Yeah.
You would need to make 40 phone calls to do that.
Reason.
Think you can make 40 phone calls a month? That would get you a 6-digit income this year.
You're convincing me.
I don't care if you picked a really stupid major. If you are a sociology major, God pity you, you could still make a 6-digit income and then laugh at that idiot professor. The cool part, where real estate is really exciting for me, is that real estate allows you ridiculous levels of freedom. Part of being an entrepreneur is that you are your own person, and you get paid what you're truly worth, because your efforts determine your paycheck. There is nothing that I'm aware of that you can get into that works the way entrepreneurial real estate works. You need no money. Your credit is irrelevant. Your education is irrelevant. Your command of the English language is mostly irrelevant. All that matters is that you try. Try, learn, adjust. That's really the entire formula. I've actually met immigrants who borderline spoke English that could do this. And I mean borderline, I don't know what the hell they were saying. They literally could do this. You have every tool that you could possibly imagine. And if you screwed up and you're some sort of engineering major, yes, no, maybe?
I'm not engineering.
Thank God. Those are a little harder to break through because engineers will eternally come up with 5-page spreadsheets evaluating everything to include nuclear detonation, how the blast would affect the property value. But yeah, anything else you can really get past. It's just simply that if I go back to focusing on abandoned property, in your jaunts around town, if you find 5 a week and then send letters to them, you'll
There's
make
one
money.
like right down the street from my house.
There you go.
You've already found one. You need to find 4 more.
And they're your neighbors too. Well, that's the thing too. Is like for any of us, if somebody gave you like $10,000, that would change most of our lives, like our lifestyle in a big way.
Oh,
you
God,
know.
I wish I'd known this. I was so broke when I was in college; it was painful.
Yeah. So and
My friends weren't running the cafeteria. I might have starved to death.
yeah, exactly. So that's like a huge thing. And most part-time jobs are gonna if you work 20 hours a week or whatever at $10 an hour, you'll make $12,000 a year before taxes. And of course, you have to pay taxes on these things. That's one thing to take into account. But even if you do 1 or 2 or 3 deals a year, which is a lot less than what you were saying, that's more than what you make part time while you're still in school, and you could do this the rest of your life and just take a vacation to Cancun if you wanted to every year with the cash.
I was a waiter in Pamela's. What a colossal waste of my freaking time. I never learned how to make those damn pancakes. That would have actually made it worth it. But the amount of time that I spent there, if I just spent my time wandering aimlessly through Oakland, Shady Side, East Liberty, I'd have made a crap ton more money for a whole lot less work. But seriously, my 4-year-old really did ask me today what I want to be when I grow up. He has no idea what I do because he never sees me do it. He thinks I talk to people for a living. It's sort of true, but he's used to seeing me in front of 100 people. But that is not anything that remotely pays anything.
Mm-hmm.
My conversations are one-on-one. They're done on the phone usually. I won't go see a freaking house unless we agree to something. which actually is a point I should make with you guys, but maybe I shouldn't. I will almost refuse to look at a house unless we come to a verbal agreement over the phone. And I'll explain, look, your time's really valuable. Do you want to waste it showing me around a house that I may or may not buy? Let's find out if I'm going to buy this thing. And if the answer is yes, I'll come see it. If it turns out to be what you described, and I suspect it is, then we don't have any problems. If I come there and you tell me the house is in fantastic shape, I look up and the roof has collapsed into the first floor, now we need to renegotiate a little bit, but as long as it's generally what you're describing to me, yeah, I really don't need to see your house. I will put a little pressure on and say, look, I'm looking to buy 5 houses this week. The only thing I don't know is if yours is one of them. So do you want to waste a bunch of time and show me the stupid house? Or do you want to see if we can do a deal on this thing? That's the question.
That reminds me of the situation I'm actually in right now. So I have
Awesome, I like real life stuff.
I have a potential seller. It's in the Hill District. But the thing is, the person that owns the house and the person I'm communicating with are 2 different people. The person that owns the house is like apparently really old and sick.
Okay.
And I'm communicating with a relative or something.
When they get older, you really do need to tag any younger relatives so you don't get any accusations of elder abuse or anything. Okay.
Well, the issue is I said that I'm probably gonna be offered like a couple $1,000s without seeing the property, and she said she talked to him and he was like, hey, that'd probably be fine. Now I'm trying to get over there to actually see the property and maybe do a contract, but she's like, oh, I'm out of town. Then now she's sick and she can't find the keys, and like this lady's never gonna actually let me get in there. So how do I convince her to let me go over there and actually start this process?
What's her reason for selling?
He's just old and he just wants to get rid of it. It's been vacant for 3 years.
Okay, let me ask you a question, sir. If little Billy decides to break in through the window to steal the copper out of this place, assuming there is any, and little Billy happens to fall down the stairs, do you think little Billy's parents are likely to be the kind of people who'll say, aw, shucks, we're not going to sue anybody? Or do you think they're going to be the kind of people that are going to light you up like a Christmas tree? Why on earth are you sitting on this frickin' time bomb? I'm trying hard to move this out of your hands. I need you to cooperate. So when the frick are you going to be there?
Okay. Yeah, that works.
You will eventually become this much of an ass. I swear to God it will happen. What else? Who thinks they can't do this? Now that you've all learned it's scary to acknowledge this. Yes?
Like, the monetary value sounds good, and like it's really on your schedule and like work-life balance, but the work seems pretty like brutal and not too appealing to like do all the time.
What part of the work?
Just like it just seems like you're dealing with a segment of people that are in bad situations.
Yes, and I'm helping them. The only thing I'm missing is the cape.
True. I guess, yeah, if they do want to sell, then you are helping them in a way.
The only reason I would ever be in contact with them is that if they have a problem. My job is to help them out of the problem in a way that they don't understand how to.
Okay.
And that's where I get paid, is because I can do things they don't understand how to do.
That is true.
You know, the guy who has the stupid sign in his front yard, he will never sell that house, ever.
Right.
Until somebody's cousin comes for Thanksgiving and happens to see it and wants to live across the street from their stupid cousin.
Right, yeah.
Because they have no concept of how to market this. It's actually a very pretty house.
Do you like, I'm trying to think about the properties of, like, obviously not great properties, so you're kind of, like, who's buying the houses, moving into them and stuff?
Well, don't let me clarify something for you. These do not have to be bad houses. I did one at $3.2 million in Fox Chapel once.
Right.
A 14-acre house. It was gorgeous. The first gatehouse we went
Same
through.
concept, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I actually got owner finance terms on that thing at $8,000 a month. 2 doctors. It literally took 5 minutes worth of conversation. The higher end properties with more sophisticated, educated buyers are much easier to deal with.
Right.
But everybody, it's natural to be more comfortable with ghetto property.
Right.
Or lower end blue collar property because you're not as afraid, you're not as intimidated. If I told you we were going to go look at a $3.2 million house right now, would you be a little concerned?
I mean, yeah, I've never done anything.
If I told you we were going to look at a $200 house, would you be concerned?
Yeah, I literally did nothing about it, so
Yeah,
I'd be concerned in any situation.
Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to
Yeah, we're getting there.
I'm like
Yeah.
below beginning level, like I'm just. Like,
Everybody starts off there.
Yeah.
I was here
Everybody
because it
does.
sounded like a cool talk.
It is staggeringly low. Again, I'm going to go back to future President Trump and $9 billion.
Right.
Even if you are the greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL, you will never make anywhere close to that kind of money, including endorsements. NBA, if you could play in the NBA, the NHL, and the NFL at the same time, you couldn't make that much money.
Well, yeah. I mean, you could make a bunch of money a whole bunch of ways.
Yeah,
I'm
this one's
interested,
actually legal.
I'm talking about actual like businesses besides real estate or any type of
Yeah.
consulting service. Like if I go to school for accounting, which I'm going for, I get my CPA, I can make money with my firm.
Hey, wait.
What they want to make.
No,
Well, that's-
and your own firm. I mean, and like
Yeah, ask accountants what they really make. The
That's
average
not-
nuclear engineer makes $89,000 a year.
right. I understand that, but you have a practice.
I'll give you one of my students. Mark Daffner is one of the biggest criminal defense attorneys in the county. If you are truly guilty, literally, they find a dead hooker in the back of a stolen car you're driving. Mark is the guy you want to call. Mark makes about $500,000 a year. Mark spends damn near that because he has an office downtown, a staff, and he has to do all sorts of expensive marketing. Mark pockets quite a bit less than you would imagine.
Yeah.
That's
I
why
know
he's
that.
trying to learn to do what I'm telling you guys about.
Yeah. I mean, if you're not trying to be.
I'll give you another good example. I probably shouldn't say the name on this one, but one of the professors at the UPMC Med School is trying to learn how to do this right now. Doctors don't make the kind of money we do.
Like wholesaling or other aspects of retail?
Other aspects.
Mhm.
Right,
I've got a Microsoft vice president right now that's trying to learn how to do flipping.
yeah. Right, yeah.
Those are fairly impressive jobs, and they don't pay nearly as well as what we do in part-time work. Not to mention the freedom aspect of it.
Yeah.
Franklin Keating, that scumbag, does stuff from an island that he owns. Love the man. I'm wildly jealous of him. I saw a hand somewhere.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say there's a lot of people who have their full-time job and they do this as a side thing because, like you said, it's part-time, and if you have a family, you don't want to have everything. It's diversification at least, but there's a lot of people I know who work at EY and places like that have rental properties, at least one or two, just for some passive income. So it doesn't have to be your main thing if you don't actually love it, because you do have to actually have an interest in it. Otherwise, you probably aren't going to do well.
If it doesn't excite you, then you
Don't-
really won't do it.
Yeah, don't go all in, but you can do it, a little bit. Like I was saying, you can make $5,000, $10,000 easily every year, no matter if you're flipping, renting, wholesaling. It's easy to make, that's a fifth of your income typically if you start out, median salary is $50,000 in the United States.
Just to amuse ourselves, what would you guys like to do if you had a pile of money?
Travel.
That sounds like fun.
What was yours?
Travel.
Okay. Cruise for 2 to Europe. Good cruise line, you're maybe at $7,000. Maybe. 10-day cruise. Do a round trip to Rome.
Sounds nice.
What are some other fun little things you guys would like to do? Anybody else have a dream? Anybody else actually want to do anything other than vegetate in the rain? You flinch, what's yours?
I don't know. I feel like if I had money, I'd invest it in something, regardless.
Fun! It's something.
I don't know. I'd buy a cafe in my home.
Yeah, there you go.
Cool. What's it cost?
Anywhere from like 5 to like 7,000, probably. That's like really nice.
One transaction.
Yeah.
Not a hard thing to do. Anybody like cars?
Yeah.
Corvette. So I want.
Buddy of mine bought a. Details on this. It's a freaking obnoxiously ugly purple Barracuda. He bought it at Barrett Jackson's auction.
Okay.
I don't know why he thought purple was a cool color, but beyond that part, it was a 60s vintage collectible muscle car. He spent $35,000 on that thing at Barrett Jackson. I mean, literally where people were bidding things up. 5 or 6 transactions is a wholesale deal, and that car's yours. And when your mind starts processing things that way, then you really get the excitement. that I'd really like to convey to you. And you, what do you want to do?
Travel.
Where?
Indonesia, Switzerland, Sweden.
Probably not the same trip.
I
Switzerland, you'll really like. It's expensive. Last time I was there at Geneva, we were in the non-touristy part, and a pizza and 2 beers was $50. And it was not a good pizza. Ironically, there are probably 200 products that are Swiss cheese that all had different names. Walked into this little deli-looking thing, and there are just crazy amounts of different cheeses with different kinds of holes in them that were all different prices. So we just bought about a half kilo of this one kind of.
A half kilo? Never heard cheese reference.
I've been to 37 countries and been to moron tourist in lots of them. One of the cooler things I got to do, I was in Beijing, and it was the Forbidden City, and a lady walked up, and for $20 I had a history professor walk me through the Forbidden City. It's very cool. I was in Paris when Lance Armstrong won his last Tour de France. Horrible spectator sport. There's just like a whole bunch of skinny guys go by all in one moment.
Horrible spectator sport.
They all look at me. Stupid. But I was there. I got to do that. Germany's one of my favorites. Germany looks a whole lot like Western Pennsylvania. The food is fantastic. Everybody speaks English. Hong Kong, I love.
Well, and to touch on different aspects, you've talked about people who have, not the greatest educational background or, math experience in any sense. Yeah, but there are people who have, a college education that are, huge investors. Robin Thompson being one of which, where she worked for IBM for, a decade? And she had her CPA, and she went, to Penn State. She went to Penn State.
Despite that, she actually...
I know. Yeah, she did all right. We beat them anyway, so it doesn't matter. But now is she like the largest flipper, or...
She is the best known and the best educator.
Okay, yeah, but she makes, a lot of money.
Robin in her own business, her business is run autopilot. Robin travels 180 days a year.
And she has a horse farm, and that's what she loves to do is a horse, not
she
really real estate.
She still makes $2.2 million a year flipping houses, just to amuse herself. One of her horses might run in the Preakness this year.
Mm-hmm.
She got into horse racing. She loves those freaking horses. She has 72 of these things.
In Florida.
They're called gypsy something or other horses. These things are beautiful. Just Google gypsy horses. Long, flowing hair that doesn't look real. And they're like her kids. She literally calls these things, and they come running up to the gate to whinny at her. One of the cooler moments I had was with her in her golf cart on this 100-acre farm we were on, racing her horse that's the big-time racer in a golf cart. She literally came up and started revving the engine. The horse rears up, and we're off. Stupid little things like that will happen for you because you have the ability to separate yourself. Her favorite restaurant is this Pan-Asian fusion thing in Ocala, Florida. We're sitting there in Diddy Bop's John Travolta. Apparently his favorite restaurant. But you get to have those kind of experiences because you do the weird crap that I'm talking about. And for the love of me, I do not know anything else that offers you those kind of opportunities. Probably should have started with that. Start with the dream and work backwards. But it doesn't really matter what you want. You can achieve it through real estate. If it's a big silly house, if it's traveling all over the place, you can live in a yurt in Mongolia if you want to, and dig ditches for people as your good deed for the day. Whatever it is that you want to do is very achievable through real estate. And the crazy part about real estate is successful real estate investors will tell you everything about how they do it. They don't hold back. You can approach these people and they will literally walk you through step by step everything they have done to go from poverty to ridiculous.
Yeah. To put it in terms that at least I kind of associated with is real estate is just passive income, like you're saying, separating yourself from like the job. Same thing as like what most of the business students are aware of is investing in stocks, because real estate's not too heavy here, but it's finance and investments. If you look at Fortune 500 lists, you see a lot of hedge fund managers. You also see the other half of Fortune 500 lists is real estate investors or real estate owners. Yeah. So those are the two biggest assets of passive income. So it's the same as...
The difference is that real estate has intrinsic value.
It does, yeah.
When that market
and tax
crashes,
benefits.
and it's going to crash. When that bubble pops, the stock people are going to get destroyed. That I can absolutely guarantee you. I don't know how well you guys follow this, but we tripled our monetary supply, which should have ended up being ridiculous levels of inflation. Anybody notice that didn't happen?
Yeah.
All that money went into equities.
I know a lot about real estate, but I know a lot about economics. So.
Yeah, that's why the Dow's at 18 on its way to 2. When that pops, there's a lot of people that are going to get their ass handed to them.
I've been like hearing about that, but it's been so long since it hasn't happened, and I'm like, again, just like I don't know if this is actually gonna happen or what.
It has to happen.
That's what I've
Yeah.
been
They
reading.
can kick it down the curb all they want, but math is math. The big indicator should be the baby boomers. The baby boomers are the biggest input into the market because they're the ones with all the money. They started retiring 3 years ago, which means they became the consumers of that money. So instead of putting it in, they're now pulling it out.
Right, exactly.
And when you start looking at an equity market where the money's flowing out, it's not a pretty future. Real estate, on the other hand, I don't give a rat's ass what happens to the economy. People will still need a place to live. They may pay me in watermelons and chickens, but they will still need a place to live. That is a truism, and it will always have some value. Short of us being nuked, real estate will still have value.
Hmm.
Even after nuking, you can probably still sell the land for something. But that's another reason that real estate is ridiculously sexy.
Never heard anyone say that.
What kind of destruction? God, Wendy Patton's a great example. Anybody been to Detroit in the last decade? Detroit's
Wait, yeah.
flaming shit. I mean, they actually show pictures of it next to Hiroshima. And it looks far worse than the place that actually got nuked. My friend Wendy Patton makes a 7-digit income wholesaling in Detroit. Yeah, let that one stay for a second. I can't think of a worse market outside of Pakistan. But you can still make money there. It doesn't really matter where the hell you're at. Appreciating market, depreciating market, hot market, cold market, expensive market, cheap market. You can still make money wholesaling in it, and you don't need to own anything. You don't need any money. Your credit is irrelevant. Your education is irrelevant. You pretty much need to take enough repetitions to learn the process. That's about it.
So did you break into real estate through wholesaling or through some other way?
Wholesaling.
How long did it take you to get to the point where you were like flipping and then eventually renting out properties?
I did it backwards. I bought rentals first. Then I realized that this plan sucks. I did it the conventional way. You know, put down 20, 30%, go to a bank, finance it, the absolute worst way you can buy real estate. Then I realized, wait a minute, if I learn how to flip, or learn how to wholesale first, I can take these little $5,000 and $10,000 chunks to pay down my mortgages. Then these things are free and clear. It doesn't matter what kind of cataclysm befalls me, those properties are mine. And they produce an income for me every month. I don't really have to do anything for those. Now that I'm property management, I really don't know who my tenants are anymore. I'm totally happy with that. Then it became, I fell into rehabbing, mostly because Robin Thompson peer pressured me into doing it. I was at a dinner with her and a bunch of other nationally known speakers, and she was making fun of me because I don't do it. So I allowed myself to be peer pressured into that. But that is probably the hardest of the bunch to deal with, is the flipping. Because there are so many more variables and so many more things that can and will go wrong there. Consequently, I actually own a construction company now.
What's the cut of property management for your properties?
10%.
Of the gross rents. So like if it's $100 a month, you're paying them $10. If it's $1,000, it's $100.
They get to deal with all the pain in the asses. There's an inverse relationship when you get into cash flow. The cheaper the neighborhood, the better the cash flow will be. The worse the neighborhood, the better the cash flow will be.
It's riskier.
It's a bigger pain in the ass.
And turnover rates.
I have a friend who is in court continuously because he's either being sued or suing his tenants weekly, and he loves it. I have a low idiot tolerance. I would go to prison. I would outright snap and take a baseball bat to somebody. I don't have I'm not built to deal with that. I need my people to have jobs. I want people who are actually adults, people who can actually feed themselves if I stop talking to them. So I have to be in rentals that are at least blue-collar neighborhood. Robin's gone the other direction. She's going into white-collar. I was talking to her, and her focus in Pittsburgh would be Hampton, Pine, Rangeland for rentals.
Yeah.
The fact her rentals are now in one of the top 20 school districts in the country down in Florida.
She has guys paying like what, over $2,000 a month for rent people that are short-term doctors and short-term, successful professionals, CEOs.
That's become much more a market because of that 81% that can't get a mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
You got doctors who can't get a mortgage.
Over-leveraged. They have so much
actually,
debt.
I met with my banker who a couple weeks ago. I call my banker my buddy who happens to be a banker because I don't use banks for anything. But he was telling me about turning down a doctor who made $750,000 a year.
It's crazy.
On a mortgage. The guy just had too much debt stacked up.
Mm-hmm.
He was unmortgageable. He also apparently had a fantastic trophy wife that was spending every freaking penny of that $750,000. I didn't even see the wife. Apparently she was impressive. I can't imagine. I seriously felt the need to send that guy a link to RussianBrides.com.